Greetings, ones and ones. Here again to share another message, another aspect of my divinity. First and foremost, as I was told coming into this, before I did this video, referencing the point of inauthenticity, the point of being disgenuine, referencing being careful as I share my proceeds. One of the main issues, if not the main issue, it is the main issue, meaning the main traumatic response on this planet by humans is the ego response or the ego reaction. As a person has trauma, wounds, resistance, obstacles, these things, sin, the ego is that mechanism within the human, the masculine, that is designed to protect the let me go forward. The ego is designed to create, and one of the main issues, if not the main issue, coming from a contrasting standpoint, is the feeling of not being safe. As one has that feeling of not being safe, the ego will react to that. The lesser ego reacts to it. The divine ego responds to it. In reacting to that, the lesser ego, from now on I'm just going to say the ego reacts to that, and that reaction, we call it a protection. Because in truth, there's no thing to be protected from, as there is no separation. Separation is an illusion, as we have ones and ones having our individual experiences. These individual experiences are a collective experience unto the earth's soul, human-wise speaking, humanity speaking, conscious-wise speaking. It's all collective. It's love. Love is collective, as we are operating through love, in love, with the purpose of love. It's all one. Having our individual experiences, nonetheless, affords us choice. And with this choice, you have the choice to have the feeling of not being safe. And as a result, not feeling safe triggers the ego. This ego then steps in to protect. Another point for to call a wound or a sin is, or one of the things that one has to be aware of, is inauthenticity. It means that within there is a tendency, you hear that word, tendency. There is the charge in being reactive as opposed to being responsive. A reaction is a default mechanism, meaning that when you choose not to do right, you default into the wrong. And wrong comes in many variations. Trust that it's a default. Even though you say you're choosing what wrong to do, that in itself is a default. The only choice there is the choice to do good. And within that choice to do good, there are complementary choices. Which good will you do? That is the true choice. The fear will have you thinking that when you choose to do wrong, that is a choice. That is an illusion. So now getting back to inauthenticity. I mentioned tendency and inauthenticity according to how Jamaicans say it. 10. The moment you hit 10, you're in an illusion. The moment you hit 10, you're in an illusion, and I'll explain to you. If you check the numbers, the numerology sequence within the human arrangement, 9 is the highest number you can truly get to. Once you hit 9, or once you get past 9, you go into 10. Once you're in 10, you're really at 1 again. So then, when you hit 10, you're in a point of inauthenticity. You're eyeing at a second degree 1, and you're creating an entire city around that. You're sitting around that and eyeing at yourself at the second one, which is the one after 9, which is 10, which is a second illusion. So now you see a second illusion, and you've gone into a whole nother realm, a whole nother aspect of imagery, fantasy, which is further away from truth. And you are allowed to do this because this is your creation, as it is our creation. And you have that choice to do wrong. Choice being, when you do it wrong, is an illusion. You have a choice to live in an illusion. That is the reality that we've created here on earth. Now, trustfully, I've addressed that matter about inauthenticity. I'll add this too, that within every being, there's the charge to be inauthentic. There's the charge to tell lies. There's the charge to do wrong. There's the charge to make mistakes. There's a charge to have an obstacle. There's a charge to react to resistance. And whenever you do that, then you do create a force, and people will gather around that force. Just as when you have your trauma, you create, meaning you react out of your ego and you protect it, therefore creating a force field around that trauma. Be mindful that as I'm speaking, I'm going to trigger you, as I'm triggering myself. And when ones are not mindful, then they will form egos around this wound that I am triggering. So that is a point to bear in mind. Keep it in mind so that it bears fruit in truth, rights, and justice, as opposed to in contention. So that is a very potent point to bring across the ones and ones in this moment. And this brings me into another aspect of the message. A call to all beings who are conscious enough to understand what it is that I am saying. There is nothing more important than addressing your trauma. There's absolutely nothing more important than addressing your trauma. Your failure, our failure to address our trauma, prevents us from having a true experience, having a benevolent experience. Instead, we have a malevolent experience. A malevolent experience, and as Rasta, I am charged within my soul in breaking down these words, in breaking down, in setting the pathways clear in these words in my soul. And as I do that, I share that with you. The word malevolent, men of violence. This is coming from the English language. Men of violence. Men. The men. The masculine. The creation. Set. Satan. Sin. Rejection. Resistance. Objection. All these things are tools of men. Tools of incorrect men. That's why you have mention and mentality. And the dual nature of things reveals the word mention, correction. The dual nature, correction again. Not nature. The dual aspect of what is perceived to be nature. The dual aspect of what is perceived to be nature is coming from a complementary and a contrasting point of view. A complementary and a contrasting point of view. In the contrasting point of view, when someone says malevolent, you're talking about the bad. And that bad is always pitted against the perception of what good is, which is the benevolent. So when you're in a contrasting state, even when you say good, you actually mean bad. You're simply hiding the bad that you are holding on to, looking and blaming on something else that is also bad, more than likely, and calling it good. So that is malevolence as it relates to a contrasting point of view. Coming from a complementary point of view, when you say bad, bad is not something to hide from. Evil is not something to hide from. What we refer to as fear, false evidence appearing rude, is not something to hide from. It is something to face. And as you face it, remember in your soul that this thing that you are perceiving as evil is something that is here to bring you an experience in goodness. And that is a complementary point of view. In that complementary point of view, there is what we call Dharma. And in Dharma, there is two perspectives. Dharma has that which is sacrificial and that which has beneficial. They're both beneficial, one being sacrificial. That is the complementary point of view. Whereas in contrasting point of view, you have karma, which is malevolence. Malevolence, karma, has two points of view. The fearful point of view and the fearless point of view. And the ego protects the fearful point of view. As one begin to realize and work on the fearful point of view, you become fearless. And as you become fearless, you attract Dharma. And as you attract Dharma, you begin to live a more truthful life. Ashe? Ashe. Okay. One of the things I'm charged with sharing at this point is my perspective on love. Love is viewed by the observer as a witness. Love is viewed by the observer as a witness. I, being love, observe myself as a witness. When I say witness, it means witness. There's a nest, an auric field that I have created. And that auric field is love. I am love. And as I am being love, I observe me being love. And as I observe me being love, I am a witness to that observation in love. Being that I'm at this healed stage in my journey, I speak authenticity. I am speaking authentically. And I'm going to change that word from authentically, because as Rasta, phonetically, I am charged with dispelling the phonetics of that. So I'm going to say, may I talk from my heart when may I tell you say, love are one of them things there. That is one thing. Yet still it is all things. Right? Now, as it is one thing that is all things, when you are in a contrasting state of mind, right, you see love as a means of escape. You see love as a means of escape. So whatever you hold as a perception of love, you see it as a means of escape. If you tell yourself, say, your mother loves you, and you protect that with everything that you have, then you will always see your mother as a point of escape. And as Rasta, we hear that word, the mother, is not phonetically a good thing because it's mad. A, which means that you're mad at A. Means you're mad from the beginning. So that being that you're looking at with affection, phonetically, you're saying that being drove you crazy from the beginning, from the get-go. Ashe. Which is irresponsible, because that being brought you into, that being allowed you to channel through them into this existence. So to blame them is not correct. And this is not to say that that being didn't agree to be blamed for allowing themselves to be a channel for you to come into this existence. Because that being, alright, in my case, that being did agree to such a thing, to be blamed. As I agree that I would blame that being for allowing me to channel through them to be into this realm, into this earth sphere. Now, coming from a healed point of view, and let me just slow down for a moment, because I see that I'm processing indigestion, which means that I'm speaking faster than my life, world and affairs is able to digest. My life, world and affairs being my body, my auric field, everything. The lizard that I was just looking at, all this is a part of my auric field. The bird saying, yes, slow down. My body just now showed me that I need to slow down. I am love, I am light, I am truth, I am beauty, I am goodness. There is never a need to rush outside of the order. There is never a need to rush rushing is a choice that we are allowed to make. Thank you, Spirit. I am love, I am light, I am truth, I am beauty, I am goodness. Going forward to the point that I was making, which is love having allowed us the choice to view her, you can say it, I prefer to say her at this moment. Love having allowed us to view her dualistically. Love having allowed us to view her in a bad way. in a way that is not good for us, so that we may have the experience of finding her again, of choosing her again. So that is also one of the gifts of being a mother. A mother, a manna, that which nourishes, provides nutrients, new try, a new perspective on the Trinity. Entertainment, nutrient. It's a new perspective on the Trinity entertained in your mind. This is what a mother, a manna, feminine, this is what she does. In truth, she allows these things. Now, as she allows these things to happen, she in her wisdom which is us, she is us, she is the human, she is the collective, she is the demon. And with full understanding, when I say she is the demon, she houses the demon. She houses the trauma. She houses the resistance. She houses the obstacle. You house the obstacle. You house the trauma. You house the sin. As love, you do these things. And as you house this, it is for you to, in truth, transmute that sin, that trauma, that wound, that resistance. Transmuting means now that that memory of the feeling that caused the trauma to be there, that you forgive yourself of this. That is what transmutation is. You forgive yourself of this, meaning you remember, meaning you remember that you are wholesome, healthy, and complete. You are love. I am love. And as you remember this, you see that that perspective that you are holding on to is simply that. It's a perspective. It is not wholesome. Now, to bring it into wholesomeness, you remember what it is. It's an experience. It's a journey. It's a continuation of life. And that continuation of life within this vessel we call humanness, humanity, the end, knowing that there is no end. So it is humans the light according to man ending. And when we end it, transmuting it to love, it returns through divine source. I trust that in presenting the information in this way, that ones and ones can gather what it is that I'm resounding with, relating, not related, remembering that to have a dualistic mindset is to be in illusion. Truth does not exist in dual. Truth exists in complementary. Even as we say feminine and masculine, and is the point of unity. That's why we say masculine and feminine. So when we say and, it is to remember that these energy bodies are to be kept as one. And as keeping them as one, this is wholesomeness. And I'm being charged with reminding my soul why it is that I am here, and I am transitioning to be continued for another version, another video. And within my soul, at these times, at these times, I give thanks to Rastafari Makonnen and Empress Menen, the example that was embodied here on earth through the governance in Ethiopia, showing divine rulership in source. Through the Trinitarian principality that governs the energetic body of this earth. Ashe. And there is, I'm being charged right now, there is the misinterpretation often held in one's mind that to say the governing body of this earth, that it excludes divine in source. In my journey, it is through that governing body as embodied, exemplified through Rastafari Makonnen and Empress Menen, that I chose to come through and be connected to divine source. There are many ways within the one way. And Rastafari, Rasta, is one of those ways. And I am charged with that in my soul as a human being. As a human being, that is my charge in the earth. Mana Rasta. There are those who choose to be charged through the Christ mind, which Rasta is also the Christ mind. We choose the egoic hold called Rasta. Some choose the egoic hold called Christ mind. Some choose the egoic hold called Buddha. Some choose the egoic hold called Krishna. All these are egoic hold, no different than a body. When you choose it, you choose to transition it in every given moment according to divine source, which rules all, that is the feminine, rules all creation. From this, all creation came. And when I say from this, there is no from. This is a manner of speaking, transmitting, journeying, joining in with ones and ones, I and I. Ashe. I am charged further Kemet. The channel is called 5D Rasta Kemet. 5D, the fifth dimension. This is what is called in this time, in this day, in this age, love. In the fifth dimension is where love is recognizable. In the fifth dimension is where love is recognizable. So the fifth dimension has always been here, and man has always traversed the fifth dimension. However, in this time, in the Aquarian age, we are collectively more aligned with this energy within our being. And I say more aligned because we've never not been aligned. However, we are in a state where collectively we've chosen to be more of this type of a being. So that is 5D. Within 5D, there are, let me go forward and make a correction. 5D being love is, as I described it before, there are spectrums within 5D. And that spectrum reveals further that there is no separation. Within 5D, it reveals further the spectrum that there is no separation. Love is all there is. As such, when a person is being egoic, it is readily seen. It is readily seen as insanity, being caused you are protecting a wound, a fear, a sin, a point of forgetfulness. This point of forgetfulness we call fear, is false evidence appearing rude. And for those of us who are more aligned, we see the insanity. And as I'm looking at myself being recorded, I can see the trauma of insanity within my own flesh. In this lifetime, we humans collectively medically call this insanity schizophrenia. Another term which I preface to reference is bipolar, because that's what it is. It's going dualistically in a manner that is unfavorable to the moral consciousness of society. And as such, you are seen for this to be as insane by those who are less insane. Ashe. Be well. Be well. Be well. Ashe.